Welcome in, everyone. Today we are live talking about Season 3, Episodes 10 and 11 of The Clone Wars. I am joined by my co-host Luke over here.
How's it going?
It's going good. And we got a pretty decent amount of guests today. Yeah, we've got a good roundtable of people that really love Padme. And this arc is really about Padme. So if you guys watching really like Padme, this is the arc for you. And why don't we hurry up and get our guests in here, Luke?
Yep.
Let's do it.
You never would have made it as Obi-Wan's Padawan, but you might make it as mine.
All right, Char.
We're back. All right.
Who are we bringing in first?
So, I like bringing in the returning guests first and then the new people because we got some new guests on here today. So, first we're going to bring on Camila at Boricuawookie.
Camila.
Hello.
Hi.
How goes it?
Good. How are you guys?
Good. Very good. You excited to talk about Padme today?
Gosh, always.
Dyad moment.
Dyad moment.
I love her so much, which everybody already knows. So yes, very excited.
Where can we find you on the social medias?
You can find me a couple places, predominantly on TikTok, which is my username is @Boricuawookie, which is under my name. And then also I have a Star Wars narrative podcast that you can check out. It's called Beings of the Galaxy. You can find that wherever pods are cast. Also on Instagram @Beings of the Galaxy Pod. And yeah, it tells a story of the people in the background and how they are the heroes of their own story. And you'll get to hear some really cool TikTok creators on season 1, which is now streaming. So definitely check that out. But that's me.
Yes, I cannot stress this enough.
And don't forget about Open Circle Fleet.
Oh yes, I'm so sorry. Yes,
another Dyad moment.
Thanks, y'all. Yeah, one half of the Open Circle Fleet, which is my better half, Beth @Mara.J.Skywalker. You can find us on TikTok as well @Open Circle Fleet, where we just have some fun chaos and also some support for all of the wonderful Star Wars shows coming up. So definitely check us out there. Kenobi, yes.
All right. So second guest we'll bring on another. Is it her first time or is it?
Well, she's. Are we thinking of the same person?
Are the remainder guests being on the Clone Wars?
This is the other three have. Well, okay, so 2 of them have been on rewatches and in roundtables. This is their first time being on like the Clone Wars part of it.
Okay, so all of them haven't been on the Clone Wars.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
That would be correct.
Okay, so this is fresh. All right.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
The next person we're going to bring on is Hannah at Nerdyhans.
Hello.
How's it going?
Great. It's going good.
Ready to talk some Padme?
Always. I brought my Leia necklace with me. It's not Padme, but I'm repping my space mama.
There you go. There you go. And where can we find you on the social medias?
Yeah, you can find me on TikTok at this right? No, it's this one. Nerdyhans, just like that.
I do that all the time too. It's like I'm pointing left, but I'm actually pointing right.
There we go. Nerdyhans right there. That's where it is. You can find me there on Instagram. It's got a dot between the nerdy and the hands because it was taken, unfortunately. You can find me on Twitter at that name as well. We have lots of fun there. And then I'm also on Fan House now. If you want to just join a sort of group chat format and send memes and chat about stuff, we have fun on there too.
There you go. There you go. Excited to have you on.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Char, who's next?
And then our third guest today will be Vanessa at Vanessa Skak.
Skakalosi gang.
Hi.
I'm liking the Phantom Menace Padme.
I got it last week. A week before. No, 2 weeks ago. It was like a loose collectible at my comic shop. And
okay, cool.
It's very cheap. Yes, I am the Vanessa from the Vanessa Skak. And that is my TikTok account.
The only Vanessa Skak.
Actually, I think so. I hope so.
If there's 2, the other one's a fraud.
Yeah, the other one's a fraud, for sure.
Exactly. Yes, I do mostly art TikToks. Sometimes I just do TikToks with random audios. Camila, I thought Camila was chiming in.
No, she's gonna grab the thing that you made for her and show off your art.
I see.
I should have had this ready, but here's a
Oh my god.
That is awesome.
Vanessa
so cool.
original.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Oh my god.
That is amazing.
I might hit you up after this. Oh my god.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
am working on a commission for you and for Malik right now. But with digital art, it's cool because it'll tell you how much time you've been spending on it. And I think I've spent like 30 hours actively doing it, which means like even more outside of it.
On mine?
Oh my god.
Not on yours, on Malik's. Because I
okay.
was sick in bed for some time. So
that's
I've had a lot of hours to work on it. But yeah, I'm very dedicated to that.
Oh yeah,
Awesome.
I cannot wait to get that that Anakin canvas. That
I'm very excited with like how I planned things out. I'm opening my window, so apologies if you hear screaming.
No, you're good. And Char, who do we have last?
I just lowered my chair. Anyway, so our final guest will be Kenna at SenatorSmoak. Let me fix my chair.
Oh.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm Ken. You can find me at SenatorSmoak on Instagram, TikTok, and now Twitter as well. I did join. And while everyone was being introduced, because Hannah was talking about her Leia necklace, I grabbed my Padme divorce snippet as well.
Oh my god!
Nice.
I mean,
there we go, gang.
I got mine. Oh my god. Could have been great.
We should all have divorce snippets. What are we waiting for?
Yeah, I agree. I support that. I support that. Well, we have introduced everybody. I think it's time to get into the first episode, Heroes on Both Sides. Char, plot summary.
I will do the honor. All right. For those of you who are on for the first time, don't mind grading me on how I do this because it happens all the time.
Grade him.
When I do plot summary readings, I have everyone grade me in the chat and on the show. The first one's pretty short, so bear with me. Okay. All right. Dun, dun, dun. I'm kidding. I was going to do the theme song. But anyway. God. Conflict with no end in sight. Across the galaxy, the quagmire of war continues. While clone troopers suffer casualties at alarming rates, the Galactic Senate convenes an emergency session to debate the true cost of the war.
That was good. Okay, I feel like that like everybody should give him a good ranking on this one.
No, please don't. But
it was decent.
Boost my ego if you want.
It was decent.
Tom Kane needs a replacement soon, so
depending on what they're going to be doing next. So the rundown on the episode. So this episode chronologically begins the banking deregulation arc, which includes this one, Pursuit of Peace, and then Senate Murderers. The funny part about this being at where it is in the release order is that it just fits Star Wars, because it's like, why do we do this? Who knows? It's George Lucas doing this whole thing. But basically, this whole arc is pretty much Padme finding her way in the Clone Wars Senate. It's like giving us a snippet of what the Senate is like during the war, because we don't get a ton of politics during the Clone Wars. There's a little bit of it here and there, but what we do get from this arc is really, really, really good stuff, especially with Padme, because there's not a lot of just Padme-centric arcs, and I personally enjoy it a ton. So Char, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, so the beginning of the episode starts with the Senate meeting talking about wanting to deregulate the banks to gain money for trying to reinforce the clone army. And we all know Padme is that person that wants to fight the war with words instead of weapons. Mm-hmm. And you can see this a lot in the arc. And I find it interesting how divided the whole Senate is and how much you can sway people to make decisions. And the beginning of it was weird because we all know that because at the very beginning of the episode, you hear Masameda yelling "Order" like he always does in the movies.
Hate
and
that
then
guy.
we hear from Lot Dodd, who is a member of the Trade Federation in the Senate, and he's obviously disguising himself as this guy pretends he has no affiliation with the Separatist Alliance. And then afterwards, he meets with the banking clan. He meets with, I'm forgetting the senator's name. He was the Ishitib that was talking.
He's part of the Techno Union, which is interesting because the Techno Union is supposed to be the not Lockdod. What's his name?
Watambor.
So it's interesting to see that, is it owned by those alien folk or is it owned by this one? It's just an interesting take. But yeah, go ahead, Char.
Yeah, and then once after that happens, there's a whole conflict with whether or not they should deregulate the banks and trying to figure out there's a better way to end this war if we can just vote to it. And we find out that the Separatists are making a peace proposal that will basically end the war. And it's not signed yet, but we'll get to that later on. And then when Lot Dodd, the member of the banking clan, I don't remember his name either, but him, the Ishitib, and the leader of the banking clan are talking about shedding some blood on Coruscant because half and half, they feel like a lot of people won't follow with what the Separatists want.
Yeah.
And if they find an open opportunity to end the war, they will do that with as fast as they can.
Yeah.
But I feel like we don't get a lot of stuff happening on Coruscant when it comes to the war. See, I feel like that's one of the most important parts of the entire prequel trilogy, is that there has to be conflict, like with the war on Coruscant. And we get that at the beginning of episode 3 with the Chancellor being kidnapped. And I find it cool that they can easily conspire an attack on Coruscant and try to just to sway votes in the Senate. Like it's pretty crazy.
And the other thing is like, what's everybody's thoughts on like the whole banking clan scene, like that whole scene of like, they're like, oh, we're in business, not violence, but they are like, hey, we need you to bomb the main facility for the Republic to like move the money. Like, what was everybody's thoughts on that interaction?
It was shady.
Yeah.
Everything is shady with the Separatists.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just think in general. Sorry, were you going to?
Oh no, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, in general, there will always be someone that like benefits from a tragedy. It's just kind of like inevitable with the way that our society is structured. Like even when a news company is covering a tragedy that has occurred, they are profiting from covering that tragedy. So, I mean, in a way, like it's terrible what they're doing, but at the same time, it's just kind of like, once you start thinking about it and like going down that chain of things, I'm not defending them at all. I hope it doesn't seem that way. But when you think about it, it turns into this really like messy and unfortunate spiral where tragedy turns into a commodity.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting because like in this like episode, like the Separatists are like, you know, like at first like, oh, we can just try to have like Padme like, you know, taken out. And they're like, no, we're like in business. We don't want like violence. And then when it like benefits their business, like, okay, that's fine then. Like if it goes with business, like that's cool. So I just think it's like interesting to like, because to me like Padme is so like well spoken, as is like Bail Organa and a lot of other leaders in the Senate, and then you hear them and it's like they're just almost like talking in like a circle kind of. So I think it's interesting to hear like the reasoning, and that's why I do like this episode and like the arc is like, I don't know, we hear the reasoning behind a lot of it, and whether it's like good, bad, we agree, disagree, it's interesting to hear like kind of the beliefs behind it or like ideas. So
no, yeah, that's a really good perspective, and to go with like Vanessa, like it's interesting that this episode, like the things that are happening in real life, and we're talking about an episode that's politically that is a political thing, and we have this thing going on in real life, and it can be exactly what Vanessa said, that Like there are companies that are profiting from these events that are happening. It's just whether or not we choose to recognize that or not.
Did anyone see Don't Look Up? Did anyone watch that?
I haven't yet.
Okay, yeah.
No, I haven't. Do you want to give us a can you give us a synopsis
Isn't
of
that
what
with
it is?
Leonardo DiCaprio?
It's like everyone. All
Oh
of
wait.
Hollywood.
Okay, so is that the no?
Cool
Hold on.
movie.
Don't Look Up. Is that the one with Jonah Hill, him and
Yeah.
Meryl Streep?
Yeah.
Right?
So basically, there is this big asteroid coming to Earth, and initially, they agree that they have to shoot these little rockets into the sky to deflect the asteroid from Earth. But then, as the guy is like going on the mission, then immediately, this businessman who is kind of like the person that controls the president, really, he figures out that if they do something at the last minute as the asteroid is about to hit Earth, then it would benefit his company more and benefit the economy more. So, I mean, the whole thing is about climate change, but like it was originally written like way before COVID happened. But I think just in general, like around the time when I watched it was when they shortened the quarantine time to like 5 to 6 days to align with like the Delta guidelines and for people to not have to stay home as much for quarantines and stuff. So it's just very interesting how like people's well-being will be dismissed in order to benefit other people, even if like it's not everyone. Most of the time they'll say, oh, but we're going to make money, the economy is going to be so much better from this, but it's only helping this, like the people at the top,
the top 1%.
Yes.
Yeah.
And everyone else is being shit on and dies at whatever.
You're not wrong, but you're not wrong. It's just like the 2012 movie. Like
I don't know were we talking about that yesterday?
I'm pretty sure we were. And like the top 1% only had enough like so there was only amount of like it's just like it amounts to like the 1% getting the ability to get off the planet when when it's destroyed, and everybody is just kind of fucked at that point. That doesn't get on the boat.
Have to fend for themselves.
No, but that's absolutely true. Camilla, your thoughts?
Unless they're Michael Phelps.
Yeah, unless they're Michael Phelps. He can swim, I guess. I don't know. I don't make up these things.
Okay.
Camilla, thoughts on the scumminess of the banking clan and the Trade Federation and
so many just like, oh gosh. I mean, just like overall, this I was rewatching for I just like I'm apologizing up front because the likelihood is very high that I might probably cry while we're talking about this or like low-key break down just because it's been a just like with the state of what's going on outside. And then watching this episode and like rewatching it right today was like a lot. But specifically this scene, so I think that like something that they say at the beginning of the episode is that they're talking about the true cost of the war. And I think that is like the overarching theme of the entire arc is that what is the true cost of the war? And at the end of the day, we're supposed to know that the true cost of the war are citizens, and it's not about monetary, it's not about financial things. And like with this, specifically with the banking clan in that scene, what really stuck out to me was the line, they're unlikely to deregulate the banks until this war hits home. And they're talking about Coruscant and how Coruscant is this place that's like, oh, we're millions and millions of miles away from the war. Sure, like we can debate all we want here, but like the war would never come here, so we can just like do whatever we want and feel however we want because it's not really hitting home. And like all these people are people of privilege on Coruscant, but as we eventually learn in Heroes of Both Sides, that there are still a lot of people on Coruscant who are heavily affected by the war. And so, yeah, it's just like, it's such a scummy scene because you see these people who are truly obsessed with using war for profit and how the true cost of the war is going to be citizens and be people's lives and their livelihoods. And the way that they're trying to make money is by like trying to hurt more people by bringing the war closer to Coruscant.
But they don't care about that. Someone under the username The Millennium Pod They brought up the war profiteering theme in The Last Jedi, and that ties directly to what you're saying. How all of those people are always forgotten. It's just people always think about like the benefits to them, and I guess there is a way of being like, oh, glass half full type of thinking, but the glass half empty should not be people's lives.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, it's very dark. It was a lot heavier than I remembered it being, and then I watched it today and I see like the smoke surrounding Coruscant, and I was just like, holy shit, this looks like what I just saw on the news today. It was very hard to see. I was just watching the news, and then I was kind of like, you know what, maybe Star Wars for some escapism.
Nope, not today. Not today. Not
the
today.
name should have given me a hint at that.
Hannah, what were your thoughts on the whole banking clan besides scummy?
I just think that's, like I said, it's just shaggy, you know? Like, and like I like that comment of The Last Jedi, because I'm in the camp of, in 10 years we're all gonna love The Last Jedi and worship it like we do the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies, but whatever. But yeah, that theme of in the Last Jedi of don't join, because everyone benefits from both sides monetarily, and the people on the bottom are just left to dust. And it really sucks for Padme like have that moment where she's like, oh my god, like my my aide is affected by all of this, and these guys in charge are just like, they don't care about the people, do they? They don't. That's that's part of it. It really it's a weird lesson to have to learn, that the people that you work with don't actually care. That's really messed up.
No, yeah, and that like I said, this whole arc really hits home. So we go from that conversation from the Senate building into Padme asks so Anakin shows up following Padme, and I swear
and
this
Ahsoka's
is like
behind them too.
Yeah, and Ahsoka's behind them too. But like, this is the best interaction, and it gives me flashbacks to a lot of things in like that we will see later on in the timeline. Padme asks Anakin to talk to the council, to the Chancellor to get peace talks going. This conversation is way too familiar to Revenge of the Sith when they're on the balcony.
Don't ask me to do that.
Yeah, don't ask me to do that. It's like they were like, okay, let's take that conversation and make it the second time that they've had this conversation. And it was just the things that you see in this conversation alone is just, I could talk about that for hours. Anakin refuses, and Ahsoka asks why not? They're Jedi after all. Like, why can't we do things? Like, we're the Jedi. We should be able to do whatever we want. And Anakin suggests that Padme take Ahsoka and teach her about politics. And she does take him up on that offer. But she asks why they can't do it, and Anakin's response to simplifying to Ahsoka that the war started by the Separatists. We're trying to end it, and we're trying to bring order, which is a big not red flag. It shouldn't be a red flag. It should just be a no-no, because if you think about it, the Jedi are peacekeepers. They want to bring balance or peace. The comment is too much Empire-esque. He wants to bring order. Why not very many Jedi are saying we're going to bring order to the galaxy. They say we're going to bring peace and balance. Padme comes back and says, after he says the order comment, she says, maybe you aren't the right person to talk to the council anyway. Come on, Ahsoka. And I love that. What were your guys' thoughts on that whole conversation?
It's reminiscent. I don't know if I've ever Revenge of the Sith. That's kind of what I got from it. I like all the Padme and Anakin interactions, because like the only interactions we've really gotten with them is when Anakin's like this little blubbering simp when he's like 19, and then the other interactions we've gotten are when he's like, his life is literally falling apart and she's her life is falling apart and they're both very distant. But I like those interactions. They have a great little they have great chemistry. So their one-off, conversations are quite funny. And I like how quick she is with, oh, I'll teach Ahsoka because, whatever. But yeah, I really like the interaction a lot. It's nice to see that side of the two of them. But yeah, everything Anakin's saying is kind of like, ugh. Not necessarily like red flags, but like orange flags. Like we're getting into the red zone, but not quite yet. Like it's not like tangerine.
Almost a touchdown. Yeah, I'm kidding.
Yeah, like kind of, but not like, oh, that's not great. You have a little ways to go before you actually get there, but that's not great, no.
Yeah, and I find it so interesting that Ahsoka doesn't really have an opinion on the negotiations because she's just like, I don't know politics. I don't care. I mean,
she's also so young though. Like, when you were 14, I'm sure none of us really understood like the war that was going on at the time we were 14 or whatever.
No.
I certainly didn't until I was late into high school, almost my 20s. So like, I don't know. I don't blame her for being like, I don't care, nor do I understand. I just work here, man. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at her master. Like, Anakin is couldn't care less about politics, and he's like, screw politics. Like, we are doing the right thing. Period. He's so black and white about it. So thus, it makes sense that Ahsoka would also have a similar perspective and be like, oh, I don't like understand all of this like banking deregulation, interest rates. Screw that. The separatists are bad. We just have to stop them because like that's what Anakin's taught her. And I love this scene because it makes me think of Mortis and how when the Force Ghost Ahsoka says to her, like, you have darkness in you placed by your master. Mm-hmm. And it's like Ahsoka thankfully had mentors like Padme and other people to be able to help her not have just Anakin's voice in her head all the time. Because if Ahsoka had kept this perspective for the rest of her life, I don't think she would have become Fulcrum. I don't think she would have been helping the rebellion. There's like a lot of things that wouldn't have been, who knows if she would have even survived, she might not have even, she might have gone back with the Order and then have been lost in Order 66. So I think that, it's like, I love the scene because you see Anakin and Padme's different approaches to pursuing peace. Mm-hmm. And then also you see the path that Ahsoka could have been going down, but thanks to Padme's influence, she starts going other directions, or has more of an mind.
I love that. I kind of brought a connection to the Lightsaber Lost episode. At one point, Ahsoka falls flat onto a billboard or a hollow board. I don't know
of Palpatine.
Palpatine. He's like, the Jedi did not create the Clone Wars to get control of the government. That is absurd. But like, he's the one that created the Clone Wars to get control of the government. But he is using the Jedi as a way to enforce these laws and to enforce order, so to say. Again, very familiar to recent events. But just like, I don't know, in a way, sometimes people are young and they go into these things expecting to enforce peace or justice. But this reminds me of like something that my sociology professor said once, where people always say that like peace and justice are like intertwined, but can you really achieve justice without violence? Violence is always involved, and it's something that is like, with the way that like our society is established, like it's ingrained in it, and it's hard to escape that with our very stubborn ways. And I think that is the way that like Anakin saw things. We definitely like him beating a person to get information out of them. Like, that was the example that he set for Ahsoka. And we see a lot of Anakin in Ahsoka, but I love the point that Camila brings up, how of Padme's impact on Ahsoka. But also, like, I think it sheds light onto the whole concept that like, even though like I guess people say like metaphorically, like the Jedi were blind, it was right in their face, but like in this episode it was literally in front of her face and she just didn't see it. She was too distracted by her own objective to retrieve her lightsaber and her weapon and to continue fighting.
Don't lose it. It's your life. Don't lose it.
Yeah.
I feel like that's me with my phone. But it's like, this is your life. Don't lose it. But it's actually true. Ken, what are your thoughts?
So I have like two, like kind of like with Anakin, with like, and Padme and Ahsoka and Padme. But what I think so interesting is like when Anakin is like saying like Padme is like the person to teach you about politics, because like I couldn't agree more, because it's interesting in like that interaction, because he's basically like, the separatists are wrong, the Republic's right, and we're fighting because we're on the right side. And I just kind of feel like that's what Anakin's been told, and he's kind of not questioning it. He's like, okay. But I think Padme, and she kind of does say this, I know in Revenge of the Sith, and I'm blinking throughout Clone Wars if she does, but she's like, do we know that the side we're fighting on is like the correct one? Because she, and I'd argue like Bail Organa, are like two people that are like, we just want peace and we want what's best for everyone. And so I think it's interesting because when she's, you know, meeting with Mina and everything and bringing Ahsoka, it's not like you need to think my way, her way, whoever. It's like, just know that there's like, this is a very complex issue, and there's like more than just like they're right, like we're right, you're wrong, whatever. And I just think that was really like, because again, like talking about how young Ahsoka is, I think Anakin was just very like, this is what we do, we follow it blindly, whatever. And Padme, I think it's kind of cool that she opens Ahsoka's eyes to like a lot of issues. Like there's a lot of gray area to stuff like this. And I think meeting Mina and her son, Lux, like it's just, it brings kind of like, I think also to like humanity to the other side, because I think in a conflicts like this, it's so common to like just demonize the other side, when in reality, like, again, like Lux is about like her age and whatever. Like, so I just found that really interesting. And I also really love, because as we know, Padme and Anakin didn't get to raise Luke and Leia. So I like that. We kind of see a little bit of like Padme being kind of like a mother figure, big sister figure to Ahsoka. I really love that we get that throughout Clone Wars, and we kind of see it here. So yeah, I think I really do like this like episode. And I think both, even though it's like separate interactions, they're kind of intertwined with that. But yeah, it's just I thoroughly loved rewatching this episode to like talk about, because I was like, it is one of my favorites. So
yeah, I like, and here's the other thing, not to jump too far in the future, but like what I want to see in the Ahsoka show is her meeting Leia and like having the conversation of like, you're so much like your mother, just how he said to Luke, you're so much like your father. Like I need that in my blood.
Do you want us to cry,
now.
Luke?
I mean,
Look,
it's
we
Dave.
can make it happen. We can make it happen.
It's Dave. It's Dave freaking Filoni. We got Order 66. Kenna was there when we watched it. Like, like that's. I mean, it don't surprise me. Like, I just think it would be a full circle thing if she met both of the children, because like she does have that connection with both Ahsoka, and no, not Ahsoka, but has the connection with Anakin and Padme, and I just think it would be just so nice to see that.
It hurt a lot, though.
It would, but I would be losing my damn mind. Like, holy shit, they're doing this, you know?
Maybe Dave Filoni's watching this and frantically making rewrites and rescheduling.
I'm just like, why is there, with all of the influence Padme had in the prequel trilogy, why is she just erased from everything else?
Because I think on purpose though, like when she passed, it purposely was like she was just a senator, nothing important, you know, died, Clone Wars, I don't know, nothing happened, so that people wouldn't be like they wouldn't put the dots together, because it was so obvious.
Yeah.
That like she created the rebellion, she created the League of the something thousand and things like that. Like she was so important. And Bail Organa did teach Leia about Padme. They had a statue of her in like their backyard where she'd be like, "Oh yes, this is Padme. She was one of your dad's friends. Great lady."
Yeah, it's like I understand why, like, like Vanessa mentioned, I tweeted about this yesterday, that like it makes sense that like on a galaxy-wide perspective we wouldn't have mentions of Padme, because she's so revolutionary that her ideals could be used to stoke rebellions in her image. I mean, we see it with the Amidalans in the Vader comics. So it's just like it totally makes sense that there are like not really any records of her. I just like that scene when Bale and excuse me, not Mina, and Mon Mothma are together in Rogue One, like no mention of Padme, and I like it. It kills me whenever I see them together because I'm like they're bestie, they're united with Padme, and like other little things like that. Even in the sequel trilogy, like beyond after they defeated the Empire, like where's Padme?
So like, and here's the thing, like Palpatine erases her for the knowledge because that is the one person that he was one of two people that he feared the most, because she was revolutionary, she was starting things, and he knew that she was going to be an issue. Hence why I still think she didn't necessarily die of a broken heart. I think Palpatine used the Force to take her life force from her and to put it into Anakin. As
you know what I noticed?
That would be such a freaking kick in the nuts, to be honest. Like, let's think about that. Like, Anakin is able to be kept alive because of the life force that Palpatine took from Padme.
You know what I just noticed?
What?
So in episode 9, when Palpatine's talking to General Pride, he's like, "The Princess of Alderaan has disrupted my plans."
Yeah, I
wish it was
about
the Queen
that.
of Naboo has disrupted my plans.
I made a video about that. That was like the Stormy, you look like mommy, baby, because it's like
the daughter did it. The mom
yeah.
almost did it.
Mom. Yeah,
That's so funny.
No, yeah,
I wanted Padme to do it, but Leia, that's fine.
No, yeah, but I just like I said, I love the interaction in this episode, and then we cut to Dooku tells Grievous to basically send in the droids to get the whole plan started, and those droids, like I'm telling you, if they would have mass produced those droids, they probably would have won the war. Like the CIS, like and obviously Palpatine's like, we can't make them too strong, like we got to make this convincing. But like,
well, look, you have to understand, like this whole entire episode is about budget cuts. All right, buddy. You can't just make as many as you want.
We can't make any, and the Separatists are fine with taking pay cuts.
I don't care if you have gray hair and can shoot lightning out of your fingers. You need the money, okay?
I guess. Char, go ahead and take the next one.
Okay, so next thing we know is we go to Raxus, which is the home planet of Mina and Lux Bonteri. And we see Ahsoka is surprised that Mina is part of the Separatist Alliance because she's like, "Wait, you're a Separatist?" And she was like, "Yeah, come on." And it's funny because Ahsoka has been taught that the Separatists are these evil people, and this comes from a quote from
too.
Huh? What's that? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
you.
Yeah.
Did something happen?
Can anybody?
He's frozen. I can hear Luke, but he looks like he's deep in thought.
Oh, he's frozen. Okay, I thought there was something wrong with my mic.
Well,
okay,
y'all
anyway.
were frozen for a second, and now everything's fine.
So we all know that Raxus is controlled by the Separatists, and when we go there, Mina is a Separatist, and I think it's very interesting because this is a line in the Revenge of the Sith opening crawl. There's heroes on both sides, but we never really understood what that meant until now, because Ahsoka has always seen this war as black and white. We've seen this. We are told that the Separatists are evil, and that the Republic are good, and we kind of have a general idea of like the reason why it's black and white is because Palpatine is doing this, and the Jedi don't understand that there can be diplomacy and could be peace between the two, but they don't understand that. And I think one of the key moments from this part is when Ahsoka and Lux introduce themselves to each other, because right when Lux is like, "Here, let me take your bag," and then Ahsoka's like, scoffs at him because she knows they're Separatists, so she just like by default hates them because that's what the Jedi are told to do. And it's funny because when they meet in the backyard, and they're talking about how Lux says that the Jedi are evil and they're crazy, and then Ahsoka's like, "Do I look crazy? and then it like shows her whole body, and Lux is like, no, not crazy. I think it's like, and this is like the introduction to Lux Bonteri and Ahsoka Tano, by the way, and they have a lot of different episodes together throughout Clone Wars, and I think it's funny that Lux does the exact same thing, and he was like, well, my friends told me that the Jedi are bad, and he's like, well, all boys are the same. I was like,
yeah,
go off.
yeah.
And then Lux also persuades Ahsoka that the Separatists aren't that bad either, because Lux is like, do I look like an evil guy? And it's like she's getting to understand that this war is more than just good and evil. Like there's people that can stay neutral and also play certain parts of the war, but don't have to get involved where it will cause conflict rather than trying to create peace. And I find that to be an interesting twist to the Clone Wars, because this was one of the main things we wanted to know, is like what was going on the outside. Like what were the neutral people doing in the war? Were they helping? Were they part of the Senate, but they weren't really like making any calls? But we find out that Mina Bonteri is the head of the Separatist Senate, and Dooku and them are meet in the Senate room, and Dooku proposes to have some sort of diplomacy between the Republic, and
Yeah.
and oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So she does so, but even before that, Padme and Ahsoka have that little meeting in their own to get to Raxus, and like there were so many Attack of the Clones references in that meeting, and it's just like Ahsoka's like, why can't we do any of this? Like me and Master Skywalker have aggressive negotiations all the time, and it's kind of funny because it shifts from Ahsoka to Padme, and there's kind of like a grin on her face, and she's like, I've heard that before, and I've said that before. That's interesting. But and it's so funny because we find out the Jedi have special security clearance to go to neutral worlds. So like Padme's like, we can use your Jedi ranking, and we can go to this place. And she's like, all right, why don't we do that? So when they end up leaving, anybody got thoughts on that scene between Ahsoka and Padme before we jump into the Lux and then the Mina stuff?
Yeah, I'll dive in the Lux and Mina stuff.
Yeah. Anybody?
I was just, what I really love about it is like, because like whenever I watch Clone Wars, I'm like, Ahsoka and Obi-Wan like definitely know about Anakin and Padme, and I think like this episode when like Ahsoka's dropping just these little like aggressive negotiations and all this stuff, I'm like, I love, because it's like, to me, I'm like, oh, Anakin talks about Padme, and I think it's super, I don't know, I love like these little interactions, and that's what I liked with like Clone Wars and like stuff like that, is like it, even though it's again a very serious like topic, and again especially with like what's going on in the world right now, but like we have these cute moments that I think just are like, I don't know, it's so precious. And I also love in this interaction, or like when they're going to go or whatever, and Ahsoka's like, do you want me to use my privilege like to do this? And Padme's like, well, like you don't have to. And she's like, oh no, I'm totally in, like I'm ready, or whatever. I think it's so cute, and I just like, I really love seeing their relationship, and I already said that, but like I have to say it again.
No, yeah.
Yeah, it makes me sad because, like, I like to think about, oh, Leia would have loved to have Padme as a mom who, like, knows all about this stuff. And I don't know if anyone here has read the Leia, Princess of Alderaan book, which is a great read.
Yeah.
But she has little moments in there where she's like, oh, I wish I could, like, talk to someone about this. Or I wish I had, like, known about this. And, she has a conversation, like just like Ahsoka's, with someone else in that book. I forgot who. And I'm like, oh, man. That would have been nice.
Well, Panaka, that part with Panaka, and
oh my god, that part still gives me chills whenever I think about it. It's crazy.
Especially after you read the, well, at least from what I've read of Queen Shadow. It's
it's
that
crazy.
whole dynamic between Padme and Panaka is interesting.
It's very interesting because they're like, they're buddies in the screen time they've had together. He's actually in this episode too, but like, you know, it's crazy to see the behind the scenes and look a little more into it, especially he becomes a Moff in the Empire, which who would have thought? I didn't think that like one of Padme's close buggies would turn into that, but from all the other books, it makes sense. But yeah, in that specific book, just to give a little more context, Leia and her friend go to Naboo for whatever reason, I don't remember. And they're like, okay, well, you need to dress in like the traditional dress in order to meet with them off because that's just how we roll here on Naboo. It's Padme's planet. It makes sense. And she's like, okay. And she puts on that white dress from the end of The Phantom Menace. And she looks just like Padme. And it's crazy. And she and her friend are like walking up to Captain Panaka's like whatever. And he's like, hi. Something's a little bit off here. And he starts like quizzing her about like, you're adopted, right? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, who adopted you? And she's like, or who are your like birth parents? And she's like, I don't know, I don't really care that much. And he's like, you've never been cured. Like, he's just kind of grilling her for no reason. And then she just, is like, that was strange. And then he's about to call Palpatine. And then Saw Gerrera, who pops in as he does, blows up the castle where he lives.
Yeah, pretty crazy stuff.
Crazy.
Camila, your thoughts on that whole back and forth between Padme and Ahsoka?
Padme's a Jedi. Padme's more Jedi than anybody else.
I agree.
Yes.
Ari, who I don't know, Ari's still in the chat, but Ari is at the Millennium Pod, who you mentioned earlier. But Ari's talked about there's a line that talks about and I think it's in The Rising Storm that and she's made a video on it, so go check it out. But it talks about seeing darkness and not giving up on darkness. And I mean, that's Padme's whole thing. And this rewatching this arc, I was like, man, this chick is a Jedi because she's talking more about negotiation than the Jedi are talking about negotiation. She's talking about actually doing work and going to neutral, like doing the work to go to places that the Jedi weren't going to try and bring about peace. And the Jedi are like, we're all about being peacemakers and peacekeepers and bringing peace. And it's like, y'all, what are you doing? You're just fighting a war. What else are you doing? And it's like, I thought y'all were about negotiations and trying to, I mean, you see at the beginning of The Phantom Menace, like that's something that they're doing. And nobody's doing that. Like Padme is doing that. So yeah, that's my favorite part about this scene specifically is that like Padme's like, no, I'm going to do the work to bring about peace, and I'm doing more than the Jedi Order are doing. And
yeah, Vanessa.
I'm trying to remember the character's name of the woman that they're visiting. It's slipping my mind.
Mina Bonteri.
Yes. So I knew that it wasn't Julie Andrews, but I thought to myself, literally exactly like Julie Andrews. So I had to look up the actress. And then it said that she was in Santa Claus 2 with Tim Allen. I was like, oh my God, how do I not recognize her? She voiced Chet, the reindeer, the one that kept going, I was like, why does
amazing.
What is she, whatever. It was just the Julie Andrews association I had. It had nothing to do with the reindeer. But I thought that was a very funny discovery in light of a pretty heavy episode. So awesome. It was funny.
Love it. That's what I'm here for. But so then we get the shot of Grievous ensuring so Dooku and the Senates aren't there. It's just Dooku and Grievous, and he's like, our constituents in the Republic need to make this happen. And Grievous is like, they'll do their jobs for once. Come on. Give him credit. It's like the one time Grievous doesn't bash a droid in the entire show. So that's a plus. That's a win for the droids. And then we cut to Padme and Ahsoka obviously landing on Raxus. Mina Bonteri and Ahsoka have that nice back and forth of, didn't the Separatists start the war? And then you get the perspective of Mina, which is so interesting because Ahsoka really has never had any interaction with a senator that is a separatist and not a war general or droids or anything like that. So that part of the conversation I think is very, very interesting. The Lux stuff is also interesting as well, don't get me wrong, but like the fact that Mina is able to break it down and basically say, well, here's this perspective on the opposite side. And Ahsoka's like, oh, I mean, I don't agree with it, but I can see your point. Anybody's thoughts on the Mina and Ahsoka conversation?
Yeah, I do. And just continuing off of what I was saying earlier too, when Mina tells Ahsoka that her husband died on Aganor from clones, it gives you a perspective of that. What if Ahsoka was in a separatist's like a separatist citizen's shoes? Like just understand, like, just because like you understand that the separatists are evil and that if they attack, or that if you attack them it's okay, but if they attack someone else it's bad. But at the same time, you have to understand from a certain point of view that the Republic attacking the citizens of the separatists is kind of the same as being attacked by the Republic. So it's like,
no, yeah, absolutely. Camilla, thoughts on Mina? Because I've talked to you about Mina pretty much all day today, and I can't stop. She is like low key, like in Queen Shadow. She's just like, I'm just like, girl, if you could have been on the opposite side, like we could have done so much. We've done so much.
Well, I mean, but that's the whole thing, is that like not on the opposite side it's I mean, both, at the end of the day, both sides are going to lose no matter what, because of who's manipulating the war. And so I don't think it's a matter of like, if she had been with the Republic, I think things still would have gone the way they went. Palpatine and Dooku just would have been manipulating different people. But what I love, I mean, it's just one of the reasons why I just love this arc so much, is that it's just like, it's women getting it done when like men can't. And it's this arc is about like, oh, violence, war, we gotta fight, we gotta get more clones, and these women are like, stop with the fighting, like we need to negotiate, we need to talk, we need to sit down, we need to talk about peace, we need to listen to each other, we need to hear each other. And I think that's often what you see with like women throughout Star Wars, and just like women in general, is that there's when they use their voices, that they're often voices of hope, that they're instruments of hope, but they're instruments of hope through words and through voices. And the fact that these women are on opposite sides, and they have opposite perspectives about Dooku, and they have opposite perspectives about the way government should be run and all of these things, but they're both on the side of peace. And I think I feel like Mina says that at one point. It's just like, it's so powerful. And it means the world to me to see these women being like, we're going to get it done when these men aren't getting it done, and we're not going to do it in the way that everyone is yelling at us to do it. We're going to do it differently, and it surprises everyone. Mm-hmm. And they almost succeed. They're so close. They do it from a certain point of view, but
yes,
yeah.
Very well said. Very well said, my friend.
Yeah.
Very well said. Anybody else got anything to add on that?
What I think is interesting with like that, the interaction with Mina and Ahsoka is, I think it, at least in my opinion, like it really changes things for Ahsoka too, and she learns that like Mina was Padme's mentor, because I mean, I think that also adds again more just like nuance to this conflict, because like we see Padme and Mina both, again, like Camila said, like we just want peace, like we want to work towards peace regardless of our differing opinions. And so I think that like I also really liked seeing that, like, you know, like it really was like the women being like, our differences don't matter, like because we are after the same goal and we want to see like a better, like, you know, place for people. And so I just like, I also just found that interesting too, again, because I can't remember if they pan to Ahsoka at all, like the camera or not, but I just, in my opinion too, I feel that also aided in her kind of being like, oh, it's not like all bad people, because this person like kind of taught and instructed Padme and made or helped make Padme into, you know, the person we all know and love. So I just also think that's kind of interesting. adding that in for Ahsoka, because it's not just like, oh, an old friend of Padme's. It's like, no, like someone who means the world to Padme. So.
No, yeah, absolutely. Vanessa?
My dog is peeking her ears right now because there's someone yelling outside. And they're nosy bitches. But anyway, I do appreciate, I had to step away for a second, but I caught the end of what Camila was saying of how the women are listening to each other and actually want to hear one another. I'm not sure if you said this because I did miss it, but I think there's also something to say about women understanding what it is like to not be heard and to be shunned and dismissed. But there is also something to say about people are more likely to listen to or to want to be convinced by people that they admire, even if it's someone that like they may not agree with in the end. The fact that they have like this previous relationship and want to listen to one another or like come to an understanding, I find that really special. I feel like most of the time those sorts of like relationships and that trust that is established is often in like a parasocial setting now with people and like internet celebrities or politicians. People just see a person and think like, oh wow, they're such a good speaker. Or they're so well spoken, or their ideas are so eloquent, whatever it may be. Or on the other end of the stick, this person talks fast, so they must be smart. But
not the truth. I speak fast and I'm not very smart. We'll just say that.
Well,
so that's not.
If you know, you know.
Oh yeah.
Say.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
But yeah, I did like that part of the episode, and even though I like the line where Padme is like, "Oh, I forgot that you like him," when she's talking about Dooku, it's like, but yeah, it's just a really cool thing. It even though like it is for kids, and like I watched this episode as a kid, and like it didn't mean as much to me then as it does now. Like now that there's so many layers and like there's so many things to talk about. I saw this thing on Twitter saying that like history repeats itself because everyone that learned from it died. It's like,
no, yeah, that's true.
That's very accurate.
It's so true. Like people hate on history in high school and like in college, but it's like it's important because history does repeat itself. We're seeing it right now. Like there's parallels and people just don't. It's so funny because I heard Sam Elliott, which is funny. He's talking about 1883, his show 1883, and it was for the Washington Post, and he said it's so interesting because we as human don't we don't take the signs. We keep messing up and we keep doing the things the wrong way. And it's funny to think like when it makes you think, when are we going to start making the right decisions as a society?
Yeah.
And maybe we never will, which is the scary part.
People always talk about like the younger population. Wait, I see your mouth moving. Are you done speaking?
Me?
I think Luke's good. Done.
No, yeah.
Your mic is good. Your camera is being weird.
Gotcha.
Oh.
No. I think he's done there. He should stop. But yeah, people always talk about like, oh, what the younger population is being influenced to the right side or whatever. But I think that also there's a lot to say about like echo chambers as well. And like Anakin was in an echo chamber and Ahsoka was like a part of that as well. And I think it's very cool that like Padme kind of took her out of that. Mm-hmm. And they both approached it like very respectfully. And I think it's something that like we can learn from in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. I see what you mean there.
Mm-hmm.
Hannah?
Luke, are you good now, or
I think am I catching up?
You're standing still while talking. It's pretty impressive. I don't know how you do it. You should be a good puppeteer.
A ventriloquist. Uh-oh.
I think I might just turn off my camera. There we go. We'll just do that. But Hannah, your thoughts?
Honestly, the same as all the above. It's just very fascinating, the allegories and stuff between real life and war and things like that, and and a kids show from the early 2000s, which is crazy. But yeah, I like strong women talking to each other about something that's not related to men. I'm a big fan of the Bechdel test personally. But yeah, I really enjoyed that we see Padme talking to someone about a topic that they don't agree on, but they're both equally intelligent in it, so they can realize in each other, we still have our agreements on other things. It's just this one thing, this one person specifically that we just don't really see eye to eye on. And I like the thing about Ahsoka because I always wondered, like, because I watched Rebels when it came out, so I was significantly older than when I saw her in Clone Wars. But yeah, I always found it interesting. I was like, oh my gosh, Ahsoka was so like into the Jedi Order and into like Anakin's whatever. Like, it's not shocking because she was always the good guy or whatever. But like, I was always curious about what made her want to be part of the rebellion so badly and have such a vital role in it.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, it's this whole arc that shows her like, there are more sides of things. Nothing is black and white, especially in Star Wars, but in the real world too, nothing's black and white.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I find that Ahsoka is able to find that gray area, and no, that does not mean that she's a gray Jedi. She's not a gray Jedi.
No,
Gray Jedi don't exist, but she's able to find that area, that fine line between understanding both sides, but willing to know which side you should fight on. It's like, I don't know. It's a weird lesson that's not really understood when it comes to war. About understanding both sides of the spectrum, because like you could be fully aligned with this side but not really understand the other side's motive or like the people that are in it, and you may see them as like terrible people, but that's what Ahsoka's been through. Like, she's a Jedi. She is taught that the separatists are terrorists, they're killers, and they're corrupt. But when you get to see that different side of the Separatist Alliance, it teaches her that, yeah, there could be good on both sides too. And that's the whole premise of this episode, titled Heroes on Both Sides.
Yep. Absolutely.
Luke, I know you got really good a good PFP, but I want to see your face.
I don't think that's happening, but that's okay. Everybody knows what I look like.
I see your pose. Don't make me General Kenobi you.
It is cool. But anyway, so the droids show up on Coruscant, and they're perfectly disguised as cleaning droids. Because why wouldn't the clones ever think, we got to see identification? They like basically Jedi mind trick the clones, basically. But
yeah, those sweeper droids are something else. Because when I first saw them, I was like, okay, that's no big deal, and then when you see what Grievous is pulling in the background, you're like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. You can go ahead.
So then back on Raxus, Ahsoka gets fresh air. She runs into Lex. Oh yeah, and Lux, by the way, he gives off Mr. Darcy Pride and Prejudice. He looks like Pride and Prejudice, like he's from Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I hadn't seen before Valentine's Day. Lux. He has the whole like get up of like he would fit in Pride and Prejudice.
100%. Yes.
Like, am I wrong, Camila?
No, not at all.
Camila?
I mean, he's not Mr. Darcy though.
Okay, maybe not Mr. Darcy. But he fits in that like
his costuming, the like Regency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
there we go.
That's true. That's true.
And also before you continue, Luke, I just want to say, because at the end of the show, I have my 3 interesting facts about the whole arc. And one fact about those little sweeper droids is that on the side of the droid it says CSD, which stands for Coruscant Sanitation Department, and I think that's like a little funny thing that's on the droid. And At first I thought the droids were like super cute. They're like just rolling and just being like, ah, and then they're like, the generator's that way. And I'm like, they're like, okay. And then they just turn. But yeah, obviously they had a way bigger purpose than I thought they did.
No, yeah. So Beth's saying that he's Mr. Wickham. That guy, kind of a scumbag. Not gonna lie.
Kind of hardcore.
No. He's a hardcore scumbag. Screw that guy. And I feel like Lux doesn't deserve Mr. Wickham. I just feel like he deserves some. He's in Pride and Prejudice. Like he could be in Pride and Prejudice. But anyway, we kind of discussed Padme telling Mina about the situation with the Republic, and Mina saying, "Oh, it's the same as what we're dealing with as well." And Padme asked her to put a motion on the Separatist Senate floor to get peace talks started, and Mina states that we'll try. We get a shot of the actual Separatist Senate, which is very interesting because it's very much like the whole layout like reminds me of the British court, like the British
Parliament.
It
which is cool because it's actually called the Separatist Parliament.
Yeah, Separatist Parliament. And Mina is talking and basically saying, "Hey, let's begin peace talks. Like, I have a source, which we already know is Padme, that there have been that they want to put out a peace offering, and like you see people from the Separatist Alliance that agree with her, which is so interesting because we always get one side of the story in these last 2.5 seasons." That the Separatists think one way when that's not really true. So Dooku's like, everybody say yay if you want it, nay if you don't. The yays have it, which, by the way, the entire time Dooku's got to be thinking, fuck. Like, this is not going to be okay. Like, Palps is not going to love this. And the motion does pass. Then we get the banking, so we get the senators of the Republic. And Dooku is like assuring them that this won't go through. It won't go through. And if you've seen this arc before, it's really heartbreaking because like what happens to Mina, it just is it's the worst. And I think it's so scummy because back to what Ken was saying earlier, that the banking clan says we don't do in business. We don't do in violence. We do in business. And they're like, we need this violence to happen so that our business keeps going.
Like, well, our business is violence.
Yeah. So Mina and Padme are both hopeful that the peace talks will begin and the war will be over. This is the last time that Padme ever sees Mina Bonteri. F in the chat for Mina Bonteri.
Come on, Padme. Should have said anything to my guy Palps.
Yeah, but
we all know what was going to go down there. Padme should have been watching the movie or watching the show.
Come on.
Should have known.
And then but on a lighter note, Ahsoka and Lux will meet again. So that is a silver lining in this whole situation.
And you do see Lux later on in a specific novel. I'm not going to say which one because that would be kind of spoilers, but
be hardcore spoilers.
Yeah, hardcore spoilers. Thoughts on the Senate? Of how like the Separatist Senate works and how it's laid out. Anybody got anything to add on that?
I think it's so cool how like not so spacey it is, because it's very like the Coruscant or like the Republic Senate is so like they got those floating discs that look like Mentos or something, and you have like Palpatine in the center. They do it though, right?
Yeah.
Palpatine in the center and like a big echoing voice, and there's screens. It's a whole big deal. And meanwhile, the Separatists, like, they kind of, like, it reminded me a little bit of the Rebellion, just a little bit, because it's very, like, ragtag, kind of thrown together, but with clearly some funding, whereas the Rebellion does not have that. But, like, it seems like it was very, they had to create this in the past, like, couple of years? Like, 4 or 5 years? They had to make a whole parliament kind of thing? Like, I thought that was so interesting. That's just the look of it. I think that the way that they do things is very similar, clearly. I think that's just how everyone does it in the galaxy, but yeah, it doesn't look that different. Like the things that they're saying, the things that they're talking about, the way that the manner in which they speak in in both senates are so fascinating because it's so similar, but also like, you have to like remind yourself, wait, these are the guys that Anakin's fighting with all of his, Jedi buddies, and these are the bad guys supposedly, but y'all seem like the same people, just like in a different colored room. The bad guy, exactly, the bad. But yeah, that's all I got.
There was one thing. There was one thing I noticed. I'll be very quick. When they're like, who agrees, who disagrees, and then they're like, Dooku is like on a hologram. I don't know how they like measure this out, but people say I or whatever, and there's like, sounds like we're going with I.
Literally.
Yeah.
I don't know how, because there's no way for them to like cast a vote and like digitally for him to just get it in that matter of seconds. It sounded like in like, I don't know, those like amateur talent shows, and they're like, the person who gets the most cheers wins. Like, but to me, like I was listening, I was like, it sounded like an equal amount of people.
Yeah.
Whatever. That was like my little, not even a nitpick. I laughed at it.
This is the fact that the one guy who was like more vocal for today, like the alien that he looks like was like a mixture of a mole's head and like a giraffe's neck.
Yeah.
Just like or a caterpillar. That's a better thing, a caterpillar. Just like he's like, nerd, and I'm just like, dude, I can't take you seriously. No wonder you lost. You weren't loud enough, man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna change the topic for a second. Hey, for all of you in the chat trying to spell the alphabet, you guys are terrible.
Yeah. No thanks.
Oh my goodness.
God. Any other thoughts, Camila? Ken, on
Ken, you were gonna say something, so you should speak.
Yeah, I was just gonna say what I thought was really interesting with seeing like the separatist parliament was like from the interactions we've seen, they seem far more open to peace talks.
Yeah.
And so I just find it so interesting that they're the bad guys and like these like, horrible people when a talk of peace is brought up, they're like, oh, absolutely. Very excited about it and just like wanting the war to end. So I just think it's so interesting that the good guys are the ones that are like, oh, our business is violence. We need this war for money, for this. And then the bad guys, at least from what we're seeing of them, are like wanting to negotiate. So it just makes me really sad that like for what happens later with the talk of peace. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. That's why I really like seeing like their kind of system. And I'm glad you mentioned it, Luke, because I was like, what does this look like? And it is the British Parliament, like that, or like the UK Parliament, like that's what it looks like. So I was trying to think, I was like, what does this look like? But yeah, I just thought it was really cool to see kind of, again, like just more about their beliefs and like more of how their system kind of runs as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Going off of that, I totally agree with that. And like, I love I love the line from Mina says something about coexisting and finding peace to coexist. And I think we can look at this arc and be like, oh, it's a matter of finding peace so that the Republic can become one again. It's like, that's not what the Separatists want. It's like, we want peace. We don't want to rejoin the Republic, but can we still find peace in our different views and our different opinions? Like, is there a galaxy where the Republic can exist and the Separatists can exist, but there can be peace between the two of them? And I feel like that's like such a radical idea that the specifically the Senate is like, oh, there has to be war, and we have to, unless you guys come back and join the Republic, there's no way that there can be peace between the two of us. But Mina is like, there's a world where we could coexist in our different opinions. And you see that with Padme and Mina Bonteri being the voices for those two opposite sides having different opinions, but still coexisting and still working together. So I really love that line that she says.
Yeah, and it's crazy because a lot of the times throughout this episode, you get the feel that, oh, if you're either with us or against us. It's like, that's how it is.
Hear that from,
like, you hear that all the time in the Senate, like when Padme's talking about the funds being what, Vanessa?
No. I don't know if you're referring to the same thing, where she refers to like having separatist friends and they're like, she's a traitor.
Yeah.
Oh,
That,
yeah.
and
You know,
also,
like
yeah, and the guy's like, whose
throwing
side are you
insults
on?
Yes.
Yeah, it's either you're on one or the other. There's no safe haven in between. Like, there's no
Yeah.
neutrality in this war, which I find it to be.
Well, there is. It's on Mandalore.
Yeah, which I
Yeah.
mean, just wait 20 years and it'll be.
That's quite well for that.
But it's like, it's weird how they, because Ahsoka just doesn't understand that, like, there's a side of the Separatists where they want peace, and she's always seen them as these these pain in the asses, essentially. But they want to find they want to find a difference between the two, and also want to find a similarity that they can negotiate, they can find peace, they don't have to fight, and everything can work out on their own. And the whole Senate, the whole galaxy is just so corrupted by this war. And it's kind of funny because the initial title for this episode was supposed to be Baking Conspiracy. But I mean, obviously that changed for Heroes on Both Sides because I felt like that was more fitting. But it's like, you have to understand that the Heroes on the Both Sides thing means that, yes, there are bad guys and there are bad guys on the good side. It all depends on your perspective on what side you're on, and also what you want to gain from this war, and whether or not you want anything from the war.
Yep. Good one. Good. I agree.
Yeah.
Here
Yeah.
he. I am still freaking frozen, and it's really frustrating me. Anyway,
Lou,
You
yeah, stop
um,
looking at me like that.
I'm sorry. I can't control this.
I know you can't.
So Grievous gives the order to move with the phase 2. The clones have no idea. Again, Padme tries to convince Palpatine that the Separatists are ready to sue for peace. He says every single time that we have done this, they've swiped our hands away. And she does persuade him. The droids make their way to the power station and start taking out engineers like it's nothing. And then they finally.
It was really funny to me.
Oh yeah, they just go down. It's like Terminator style, and they're just like,
It's
"All right,
so
got
brutal.
you. You're dead. You're dead." And it was just like I said earlier, they could have won the war if they just had mass produced these droids.
Like I said, bunch of cuts.
Yep. Padme and Bail persuade the Senate that there is no need to create more clones. Right as they are about to do the vote, the droids self-destruct. With the attack on Coruscant, the Senate elects to deregulate the banks. We then see a shot of Anakin and Ahsoka. Well, Anakin catching up to Ahsoka and Padme. And Padme's like, I can't believe this is happening. Anakin scolds both of them, saying that it was very dangerous and reckless, and that you have gone too far. And that sounds a lot. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say, Vanessa. And it's just like, again, Empire-esque, pointing the finger, being like, this isn't how we do things, and that's how the episode ends.
Yeah, and also, Luke, I find it funny that you're like, if they just mass produce these, they'd win the war. Imagine a whole group of Jedi facing a bunch of sanitation droids.
But they aren't sanitation droids. They turn into badass droids.
I know, they're Decepticons, whatever, but
but that's how Heroes on Both Sides ends. Jar, give us the plot summary for
Pursuit of Peace. You got it, man.
Everybody's favorite.
All right, this one's a bit longer, but I mean, it's doable. So here we go. Anything's doable. Why did I say that? Ready? Peace shattered. Once promising negotiations between the Republic and the Separatists are now in shambles following a droid suicide bombing on the capital city planet of Coruscant. As fear and anger prevail, the Senate overwhelmingly passes a bill to deregulate the banks, opening a gateway to additional troops and an increase in fighting.
Good job, Char. So we start just right after Heroes on Both Sides. The Senate is all up in arms about the Separatists attacking Coruscant, but then wanting to get to sue for peace. They're trying to figure out why they would do this, right? The discourse, the Senate is overwhelming, and it really does hit too close to home. Because again, more real life stuff. We're starting to see that. Padme is accused of being a separatist, like we talked about earlier. And they get a hollow of Count Dooku, and I love the fact Palpatine plays it off and goes, "From our enemy, Count Dooku," and it's just like, bro, you're the enemy. You are the enemy, but nobody else knows that but the audience. But anyway, and then Dooku informs that the Republic was responsible for the death of Mina Bonteri, and the peace talks have crumbled. Thought on this whole scene start of this episode. A lot.
A
It's
lot.
a lot to take in. A lot to take in. Camila?
Oh my gosh, this is my favorite episode.
There you go.
I love the start. First starting out, I love these two episodes are about like fear specifically and how to fight fear. And then the like header at the beginning of this episode is truth can strike down the specter of fear. And like that's what we're seeing throughout, is that like there's so much fear from all of these senators, and this fear is being stoked by lies that you see, especially like when Palpatine cues up Dooku. And just all of the lies surrounding that. But I also, again, like seeing Padme's journey through these two episodes, and especially this episode. I don't know if you guys, if I have it right here in front of me, but I don't know if anybody has the Clone Wars anthology, Stories of Light and Dark. There are different, what it does is it goes through different episodes / arcs. And Padme's is this arc, specifically Padme's chapter. And she talks a lot about, in like this episode, it's titled Pursuit of Peace for this episode. And throughout the chapter, you were getting more inside her head and how she's talking about like feeling inadequate and feeling like she's being attacked and feeling like she's always having to prove herself. And no matter how hard she tries, people are not going to listen to her. And I mean, you see that throughout the episode in general, but especially at the beginning of this, like she just that moment where everyone is yelling at her, it hits so hard, because it's like, again, the fact that women are just not listened to so often when they're trying to speak truth, and they're not heard. And then again, seeing her journey into getting to the point where she is at the end of the episode, the voice that is heard by everybody, and seeing how far she comes. It's just like, it's such a powerful arc, and to be able to see where it starts and to where it goes, I think is like, again, really powerful, and I love it.
Vanessa, Ken?
I have the E.K. Johnston Padme books. I just got them earlier this week. I'm like 100 pages into Queen's Shadow because of doctor's appointments and waiting rooms, and you get a lot of free time in waiting rooms. But just like, I just love how E.K. Johnston is able to recontextualize Padme as a character in general. It hasn't been covered yet in what I've read, but I just always assumed that like Padme was not taken seriously as such a young ruler of a planet. What was she, 14 when she first started? Yeah, that's extremely young. I would not have been able to do that. I'm sure she was in education and, prepared for the part, but just in general, like, there is so much to learn. I wouldn't trust myself a year ago to rule a planet, let alone now. Like, I think there's a lot where, like, when a woman is not being heard and when they're young and they have something to say, but because they're being dismissed, they blame it on their age. And then later on, I guess you could say like, oh, they just blame it on her. They assume she's ditzy because she has all these extravagant outfits. But those outfits actually like have a purpose. Like, they're bulletproof, and like that's so cool. Like, they're for her safety, and like she's just such a smart person, and like she keeps it to herself for her own benefit. But yeah, I love what you said about how she was not being listened to, and then she is the one that is heard. And I hadn't thought about it that way, and now like it makes it so much more powerful. And I've always loved the speech at the end of this episode, and it's just it's so great. I almost did a project on it for school, but I did it on something else. But I still see it as an opportunity. I think it's just there's so many different like overlapping conversations to be had about like that speech and this episode, and just like what the politics of the Clone Wars mean in general. There's just so many things that go into it, and it's very cool to like talk about and flesh out. Again, like it is a kids show, and like as kids, like I guess some people might call this like a filler episode or something, but to me, like this is the Clone Wars. Like this is like one of my favorite episodes. Even though like it is such a very heavy subject, I guess like from my memory, it brought so many thoughts to me like the last time that I watched it. But I guess in a way like it was something that was distant from me. I just found it to be very interesting, and for a lot of conversations to be had. But today rewatching it, it hurt to see that like there's a lot.
No, you're absolutely right. And people that call this arc filler don't understand what Star Wars is, in my opinion, because this is exactly what this is the representation of what real life is and what real life politics is. You get a glimpse into real life politics in the Star Wars galaxy. There's not much difference between the government that we have now and the republic that we see in the Clone Wars. It's very divisive. Things aren't always, not everybody's kumbaya. Everybody disagrees on things, and that's just the way the world works. Star Wars it's supposed to be a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, but it's a lot closer to the real world than a lot of us are willing to admit. Ken, any thoughts on that whole thing? I mean, both Camila and Vanessa just knocked it out of the park. It's kind of hard to say anything after those two.
I'm like, I pretty much agree with everything that was said. I just like, in terms of the start of the episode, to me, it really kind of just felt like almost like a witch hunt, like a witch trial, when they're all just like going at Padme, and it's just like, to me, it further emphasizes that they don't, in my opinion, want any gray area. And we've talked about that already, how Palpatine was just really wanted to create this like polarized kind of conflict. And I just think, we just really see, like, even though, in my opinion, and I think it's pretty correct that Padme is the voice of reason, along with like a few other senators there, but they just like don't want to hear it, because in creating a middle ground, it's just like further, I guess, just opens a can of worms, if you will, or like Pandora's box. And so I just like, to me, just like, I think like a lot of like women can like relate to that, like, just like having an opinion and then just like literally getting just bombarded with like, criticism and just everything. So I just like, it is really nice at the end of the episode to see her, and we've already mentioned like the one that is listened to, because like, I mean, she really is like, I mean, being accused of being a separatist, like, I mean, they're trying to like attack her, like her character, her name, her everything. And so I think it's, makes it that much better to see at the end her kind of like overcoming that. So yeah, again, I don't have much to add, but yeah, that was just my thoughts on like the kind of first bit. So
yeah. Hannah, did we hit you? I can't remember if we did or not.
No. I was off doing my thing.
That's right.
Yeah. I honestly, y'all covered all of it, but I actually was gonna say like toward the end of the episode, but I guess just say it now, might as well. But something, getting off of this to talk about Padme, which is not what we're here for though. Something that Palpatine does in this show is so fascinating. He does something that we refer to in acting school as the mask of the divided self, which means the audience knows something that the people in the play do not, that the actor does know, and has to play both sides. So he has to play the Mask of the Divided Self, is what that's called. And it's so fascinating to see that like in a kids show, because you see that in like very elaborate like Shakespeare plays, which is so fascinating. But just the way that he speaks to everyone, this is not a gray thing, it's black and white, there's good and bad, to keep the people in the show, the actual characters like on their toes, and keep them in these two separate boxes that don't overmix, because that's what will make his big red box called the Empire. And then like in that last scene, I know we're jumping a little bit, but we can go back. Like in that last scene where he's like, everything's going according to plan, and Senator Amidala, I don't like her. She's it's so fascinating because like that's our little peek into what we know to be true, what we've known since 2000 whatever. No, we've known for a very long time, actually, I think. That he's the big bad. He's the reason everything went to, shit later. It's cool to see that, like, all the different things in his head. I recently had to play a part where I had to do the Mask of the Divided Self, and it's painful. It makes your brain go crazy, and that was just for like a couple of weeks that I had to, I played Olivia, where I had to pretend to be, or Viola. I played Viola, where I had to pretend to be a man, pretend to be a girl, pretend to be a man. It was so crazy. And adding that into war and managing an entire galaxy, I can't imagine. His brain must be exploding, but you know what? He's just that crazy. I'm sure he's doing just dandy.
Yeah. He doesn't have a soul. He doesn't care. So Padme again refuses to believe that the Republic killed Mina, and Bail has a source who can confirm that Dooku was behind it. Bail believes he can shut down the bill, because they have a little back and forth of Bail's like, all right, I know we can do this. I know we can stop this bill. I just need more information. Bail believes he can shut down the bill if he has more information on the financial logistics of the bill. Because if you think about it, money, you have to have money to pay off a loan, and that's what the banking clan is for. So Padme and Anno are with the representative from the banking clan, and they state that the Republic will charge the Republic 25% interest on the money that is used to create the clones. And I think the most interesting thing is it's like now we're getting into financials, and it's like you hardly touch on financial stuff when you're in Star Wars. So it's like that was really interesting, because they look at it and I think Padme is the one that says the original agreement was 10%, and the representative states that the banking clan doesn't have a stake in the war, but they do. It's just so interesting to me. And the last jab that the banking clan goes, well, the Separatists have no problem paying the interest fee, so why should the Republic? And I thought that was just so scummy, and it's just too real life. Like it's and then we get Padme back again, talking to Bail, that if the finances go to the war effort, then social services will destroy the Republic itself. So you're losing healthcare, you're losing education, you're losing means of living for the lower income class. And it's this part hits too much close to home, that when people say that the Clone Wars is for kids, I direct them to this arc, or this episode in particular, and say, yeah, right. It's not all pew 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 pew. There's substance to every single arc and every single story. The senators receive messages, and they're being attacked to make sure that they vote for the bill. Anno is one of them that is attacked. Padme meets with these senators and tries to persuade them, but nobody will budge. It's either because they have already made up their mind, or they really think that the bill is a good thing. And it's so interesting to see that concept. And I'll ask this a little bit later, but we see the muggers at the bar communicating with Dooku, and he orders them to eliminate Padme. And let's be real here. These guys aren't going to get it done. If Newt Gunray wasn't able to kill her in episode 1 or kill her in episode 2, why do we think these bozos are going to be able to do it? No way. Like, she's a boss-ass bitch. Like, you can't take out Padme. I'm sorry. You just can't. And so, like, but I will say the bar music was on point. I was digging to that bar music. I was like, yes, this is Star Wars to a T. So then we see Padme talking to Bail. Padme states to Bail that he should be the face of the movement. She states that she will meet with undecided senators, but he should be the face of it. Thoughts on that whole of what I just broke down? I know it was a lot.
I saw a comment saying that you simp for Bail Organa, and I have to put my hand in there and say yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes. Jimmy, she's a Jimmy Smith guy. Jimmy Smith guy.
He's like 60 years old. I'll never.
He's aged like fine wine and beyond. He's just amazing. But yeah, I like that she gave Bail permission. He can just like take it, and he listens to women. He's a good man who taught people right. You know, good men listen to women and get things done. You know, and he can have many enemies. You know, the Empire still liked him during that era. They were like, okay, you're a little sus, but whatever. Like, great guy, great, fantastic guy, and the way in which he went was very, very sad. But yeah, I like that he listens to people. Yes. Yeah, I don't know. I like that they talk about the rebellion, and they're talking about this like, okay, we're gonna have a league of people, like they're figuring out the schematics of it, and that's like, as a rebellion girl, that's so cool to see it happening. I don't know, it's cool.
Anybody else got anything?
Yeah, I was just kind of talking about Bail Organa. I really like seeing like his and Padme's like friendship, because like, not that we don't get it in like Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith, but I really think we see it fleshed out of just how much like she trusts him and he trusts her. I mean, he ends up taking care of her daughter, and so I think it really just like makes it so much more like meaningful that he does that, because you see how close they were. And I completely agree with what Hannah was saying. He is like, he doesn't take this bill from her. He doesn't like, he is like just like such a supportive friend, and I really love seeing their friendship fleshed out. And then I think it's so interesting too to see them talking about like, again, like the finances of this, because that is a harsh reality of war. Is like there's not unlimited funds, so like you pull it from somewhere, and it's like, Padme and I think most people watching are in the boat of like, well, it needs to end. Like there has to be an end point. I think it's so hard because you also have the people in the Senate who are just like, nope, we have to keep funding this no matter what. And so I just think it's such a like hard topic and conversation. I love that Padme has Bail at least like back her up and then work together, but yeah, I just think that it's like, yeah, it's a very real debate and topic, and I think it's one most people have at least heard, whether it's TV or people talking, they've heard talked about before, like how much is a war going to cost, and what will you sacrifice like to again have it, like let alone human life or life in general, but like services as well. So yeah.
Vanessa or Camila?
There are two things that I'm thinking of. The first thing is, I think Padme, when speaking to Bail, she is very aware of how she is viewed, and my Mac is going to sleep soon.
No.
Oh no!
Wake it up! Wake up!
Give it some cold water. Yeah, that'll definitely wake it up. But yeah, I think she's very aware of how people view her, and I know that this is something that we joke about a lot. I will say something and you'll be like, no, what? And then Brian will be like, oh yeah, that's true. And he'll be like, oh yeah, because like men will listen to men and whatever. Like that is the joke, because usually the things I bring up are very absurd. They're not mean people, I swear. But yeah, I think she's just like, based on how a lot of people in the Senate have treated her, she knows that they will take it better if it comes from a man, if it comes from a respected man. I mean, what man is not respected, really? Anyway, but I think also towards the end of like the chase scene where all the cops stop her and then she was like, someone just tried to kill me. You're not listening to me. Yeah, just like, I know it's very subtle, but it just made me think of like how like violence against women is dealt with and how they're more focused on like if like the woman was doing drugs or something instead of like why she was in that situation, who did something to her, why does she have blood on her face, you know? Like they just immediately like blame the woman for whatever. That was something that I noticed. The other thing that this reminded me of was how we were saying how like the Senate and like people's thinking is very black and white, and people seem to be like very decided on what their vote is, and like nothing is going to change their perspective on things. And it reminded me of this January 6th documentary that I watched, and how despite like after all of the chaos, the lives lost, the people injured, and like most of the people that voted against like Biden being put into office, they still stayed with the vote. They still tried to get it to not happen and to keep the previous president as president. I mean, thank goodness everyone else pulled through, but yeah, I just think like when people are set on something, for the most part, it shows like it wasn't a one-time thing. Yeah.
Camilla, friend, you haven't talked much. I'm worried about you.
No, it's all good. I want to make sure. I love hearing everybody speak. I want to make sure everybody talks. But I love, oh my gosh, I just love everything that's been said. Just retweet everything like Ari said. Yeah, no, two things I want to talk about, especially going off of like Vanessa was talking about in terms of like bail of it all, and then also talking about constituents. That's the other thing that I want to talk about. First, like the bail of it all. I love, and this also kind of connects back to Heroes on Both Sides, the scene when Ahsoka is in Padme's office, and Padme's like, I wish I could talk to Senator Bonteri, and Ahsoka's like, who is he? And Padme's like, he is a she. And there's that like, often in these spaces, there's always an assumption that people in respected places and places of power are men, and there's always just like an assumption of men in these spaces. And then you also see that with Senator Christo, the Quarren senator, I believe, Padme and Anna were talking to, is that like they were like they're trying to convince him to side with them, and then when Padme's like Bail Organa is mentioned, and he's like, well, I'll listen to him because he's a voice of reason. And it's like Padme and Bail could give the exact same speech. This is pre the ending, but like if Bail had given his speech that he was planning to, and Padme had given the exact same speech, it would have been heard completely differently coming from Bail, because that's just a fact. That's just what happens. Men are just heard differently and are listened to more often than women are listened to. I mean, listen to women, believe women. Yeah. And so, and I think that going back to Padme's arc is that you see her being like, Bail, maybe if they listen to somebody they respect, like if you gave a speech, then everybody will listen. You're respected. And so it's just, I appreciate seeing someone that I admire as much as Padme having those kinds of insecurities. And those insecurities, and where you know that you have power, but you know that your voice isn't going to be heard as well. And also seeing her doing that thing that women often do, which is, I know how to get something done, but it will get done easier if there's a man doing it, because I can see what's happening and I'm not the one who's going to be able to get it done. And that just like breaks my heart for her, and also just for women in general, the fact that we have that we think that way, and that we always are putting ourselves in the background and making ourselves smaller than to be able to get things done. So that's like on the bail piece of it. But then also like something that's talked about a lot throughout this episode is them talking about constituents. And a couple of the senators talk about like, oh, I'm acting in the interest of my constituents. I'm acting in the interest of the people who voted me in. But then Senator Christo says, yeah, exactly. Senator Christo says to Padme, when was the last time you talked to your constituents? When was the last time you talked to your people? And like, that's supposed to be in the back of her mind, because obviously then we see her talking to Tekla later. But yeah, this idea again that like all of these senators are so far from their people and are so far removed and aren't thinking about the Republic people and the citizens. And again, it comes back to who's the cost of the war. It's not money, it's citizens. And these people are the true cost of the war, because these people in places of power aren't listening to the people that they were elected to serve. Which again, like really hits heavy. It's very heavy.
No, yeah, absolutely. And like this is why like the world is so much tougher for females than it is males. And it's just the truth. It's the cold hard truth that we have to live with. And like it I don't understand how y'all do it on a daily basis, because I would just my comment sections, I'd be just like going off because I just don't understand. I don't get it. But that's for another conversation. But Char, what did you think of the Quarren senator, her actually beating out which by the way, that guard getting taken out, I was like, come on, man. Like I get it, like they came up behind you, but like these two bounty hunters are chumps. I get if it were like Aura Singh or like somebody else, but like these two are chumps.
Yeah, like Senator Christo, it's like I don't like the fact that, like what Camila said, like how a woman wants to get something done, like, and it can't be done without a man's help. Like that's just not good thinking. Like I don't really appreciate that idealism in society. Like a woman is fine on her own. Like it doesn't matter what she's doing. Like she's easily capable of fixing an issue. And Christo, it's, I don't know. Christo is just, I don't really have an opinion on Christo. I think Christo is just, I don't know.
Yeah. So
Christo's like that character that's just there and then it's just not there anymore.
Yeah, pretty much. No, you
don't know what happens, but you know.
Yeah. Padme's ambush, obviously, she does a really good job. I mean, she pretty much takes them on, and then the officer droids show up. They're like, stop right there. And then in like the most typical fashion, they get destroyed. And I'm like, what's the point of having them? My God. Padme steals a speeder to get away. The entire chase scene was like, I remember Dave, because I listened to like the snippet of like the explanation of the episode, and he's like, we loved the episode, but it just seemed too long and there wasn't much going on, so they added this scene to like give it a little bit more oomph, and it works. It does I think that's the best part. If it were just them in the Senate building again, I think it would have kind of dragged on a little too much. But adding this into there, and then adding on this perspective that Vanessa had of like, oh, she's a woman, like even if she's a senator, like the whole thing is like too much on the nose. But back at her apartment, Padme talks to her handmaiden Tekla about her warning of the belief of the Republic. Tekla states that she isn't like most politicians because she talks to the common citizens, which gives Padme the inspiration she needs to get back in the fight. At the Senate building, Bail gets attacked. The muggers were by the muggers, but he was prepared for this, and he ends up getting injured. They get a holo of Bail stating that he is not able to give the speech, and he pleads Padme to give the speech for him. And it's kind of like him giving he giving the baton back to Padme, just like, I know you can do it. You might not believe that you can do it, but I believe in you. and that is like so wholesome, and it's such a Bale thing to do because Bale's the best. So guys, take a page out of Bail Organa's book. Be that guy. Don't be Clovis. For the love of God, don't be Clovis.
And also a fun fact, Senator Christo, the only source or thing that he's in Star Wars is
this
Pursuit of
episode.
Peace. It's the only thing that he's in.
Yeah. So Tekla convinces Padme to give the speech. This speech is just perfect, and I can't do it justice. So Camilla, since this is your episode, you, and I'm pretty sure, are you wearing the sweatshirt? You're wearing the sweatshirt.
I am wearing the sweatshirt.
Okay. So
thanks
give us
to
the
Beth,
backstory.
I have my favorite scene in all of Clone
I need
Wars.
one of
I can wear
those.
it.
I need one.
I had also printed it
Wait,
out.
what does
It's
it
like in a
say?
frame above my
It's
bed.
the whole speech. It's the whole speech.
This is the speech.
So
Oh, no
Camilla,
way.
Camilla, give us the speech.
Man, let's see if I can say it without crying. Probably not.
All right.
Okay. So Padme comes in and she's like, I will speak on his behalf. Senator Amidala will be permitted to speak. And then she goes, Tekla Mino. Tekla is one of my aides. Like so many of the people that we tell ourselves we're here to serve, Tekla lives in a district that rarely has electricity or running water as a result of the war. Her children can now only bathe every 2 weeks, and they have no light in which to read or study at night. The Republic has always funded these basic services, but there are those who would divert the money to the war with no thought of what the people need to survive. If not for people like Tekla and her children, who are we fighting for? My people, your people, all of our people. This war is meant to save them from suffering, not increase it. I support our brave soldiers, whether they come from the clone factories or from any of the thousands of systems loyal to the Republic. Sorry.
This is the impact of Star Wars, people. Man, you're doing good so far, Camilla.
But if we continue to impoverish our people, it is not on the battlefield where Dooku will defeat us, but in our own homes. Therefore, it is our duty and our responsibility to preserve the lives of those around us by defeating this bill.
Bam.
And then everybody applauds.
Mic.
And it's a beautiful moment.
Mic drop.
Good job, Camilla.
It's also, oh damn it, we lost Vanessa. Satine is also seen in the background, and me and Camilla were watching this with Beth actually, and I pointed it out, and this is like the moment that I hear, like the TikTok that comes into my head is, "Go best friend." Like that's what Satine's doing behind Padme. And the Senate votes against deregulation, and like Hannah was saying, the Palpatine goes, "We're just going. This is not going to stop us. The plan is still going to keep going." And it's just so sinister of how he does it. But let's talk about the end real quick. Thoughts on the speech, Camilla? You did perfectly.
Somebody else start while I compose myself.
Everyone in the chat spam W's for Camilla.
Yeah, W for Camilla, please.
Everyone spam W's in the chat.
That was
Camilla.
perfect, and she's a queen, and she my best friend. Anyway, Hannah or Ken, thoughts on the speech?
I mean,
I'm kidding.
I was like, I just like, let alone what's like the content, like it was like the words she speaks, which are just so, it's like I was getting chills as you were reading it, Camilla. I was just like, it's such a like, because it's one that's still relevant, like it's relevant outside of Star Wars, and it's one that's been relevant like for so long, and it's one that will continue to be relevant because it is so easy when you don't see like the people actually being affected to just literally like put it out of, you know, your view, but like Padme bringing it to like kind of like to the center of everything is just so powerful. And I just like, I also really love that, like, even though she's like, okay, I want what's best for like my people, for people in general, like, so I'm gonna go through Bail, who the people will listen to. I really like that it is her that gets to deliver the speech, because I think it is showing that, like, you know, people like people will you know, listen. Like, you might need to literally like hit them with over the head, but like, just it's such a, I love it. I mean, and honestly, you could take that speech and like deliver it, and like people probably wouldn't know it's from Star Wars. If you took out certain words from it, they might think it was like a politician who gave it. So I love it. And again, every time I watch it, I get chills at the end, because it's such an amazing speech.
Really.
But yeah.
Yeah. Hannah or Vanessa? Okay.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, honestly, all of that. It's so, the speech is, I like that it's delivered by Padme, in that, like, you know, they're already feeling a little bit down. Bail Organa's not doing great. You know, he's just gotten attacked, whatever. And everyone's kind of like, ooh, what's going to happen? You know, tensions are very high. And then she delivers the speech just perfectly. And it really proves to this galaxy that women are capable. At a time where, you know, in their timeline at least, you know, yes, women hold places of power and they're in the Senate, obviously, but there's still like a very misogynistic vibe about in the galaxy, and that does remain for a long time, you know. But yeah, it's like a little turning point. It's another chapter in the book is turned. It's a very pivotal moment, and I don't know. It's really, really good, and it's really, really telling of how great of a woman and a senator she was, and why she is such a great role model for small kids everywhere.
Absolutely.
And big ones too.
Vanessa, are you there? Are you all right?
Hi. Am I lagging at all?
A little bit, but your audio's good.
Testing. Hello.
No, yeah, you're good. You're good.
Oh, okay. So there was this lecture that I watched a couple years ago. It's by this guy, George Monbiot, and it was based on his book, Out of the Wreckage. And he pretty much explained, there's this one part that I loved because I study Latin, and he brought up how society was or should be based on this philosophy of companionship, and how at first within the word companion there is significance to it. You have the word com and panis, which means with bread, and there is an importance in like sharing a meal with people and like getting to know the person, like the conversations that are held over meals. And so that's just like very important. And like when establishing a community and when representing people, it's important to know them. And I think that is something that like Padme does. Well, it is something that Padme does in this episode. She goes back to the people that she represents, and she brings that knowledge to the Senate, and her speech is entirely selfless. It's based on just representing those people. And I like barely skimmed the speech from Dark Disciple, the one that Count Dooku gives when he receives that humanitarian award at the gala, but it's just exactly as like, not even how I remember, but just the basic rhetoric that you get, which is the opposite of something that relies on companionship and community. Although they give speeches that give this facade of unity and patriotism and whatnot, it's always very individualist focused. and they're always it always ends up being like, how will this benefit you instead of us as a whole? There's also this image that I saw several years ago, I think back in like 2016 or something, like way before that election, even before infographics were a thing. It was just someone holding up a photo, a little sign, and it said like, vote in the best interest of not you, but the least privileged person that you know. And it's just something that like I have always carried with myself. Like there is, I guess, like some people may vote on things that will affect them. Like for me, I'm a woman, I would vote based on people that will represent me and like my ideals with reproductive rights and whatnot. I don't plan on getting or needing an abortion, but there's someone out there that, you know, may need that option. So, you know, I will vote in their best interest. And yeah, I just think it's so important, the example that Padme sets in this episode of like that emphasis on community and how it actually works. Back to the lecture that I watched, this guy, I don't know if he was talking about a city in Brazil. I was trying to look through the notes in my phone because I was like, this is so interesting. I was like watching it as I was cooking, but I had to like stop what I was making just to like write it down. But I think it was a city in Brazil, and they were upset about the taxes. No, they were upset about the traffic and like how long it took for them to get to work. And they were aware that they had to raise taxes in order to help make the traffic go by faster, help them get to work faster, ease the traffic. But they were aware of like where the money was going, and they knew that it would benefit the community more. So yeah, these are just all interesting things. Community and companionship is important. And
Absolutely.
yes.
Absolutely. Well said. Camilla, bring us
I
home.
love it. This speech is just, it's my favorite Padme moment because it's like the culmination of who Padme is in so many ways. I love that, again, it's the culmination of her arc in this episode of in the Clone Wars anthology. Constantly throughout the short story, there's the running line, it shouldn't be her, it shouldn't be her, it shouldn't be her. And that's like Padme's perspective going into this speech, is like, it's supposed to be Bail giving this speech, it's not supposed to be me, it's not supposed to be my voice that's supposed to do all of this work, and yet it ends up being her voice because she's needed, and she delivers because she's thinking about Tekla and has taken the time to listen to Tekla. And what I love is that when she talks to Tekla the night before the speech, is that she's not talking to Tekla to prep for her speech because she doesn't know she's about to give this speech. It's like her genuinely being like, I haven't been listening. I want to hear from you. This is my genuine want. And then it's Tekla later that's like, you actually do listen to people. You listen to me. And that's when Padme gets her inspiration for the speech. And then she gives a speech, and it's just so powerful. Obviously, you all just witnessed how much it means to me. And
yeah,
it also is like, I love that in the anthology, I'm just going to read it because it's great. And so she gives her speech, and then obviously we see her smiling and she's looking out in the crowd. And I think a lot of people, you can often read that as like, oh my gosh, Padme's so proud of herself that she gave a good speech, she's patting herself on the back. But like, that's not at all what she's thinking, because in this chapter it says, who knows what tomorrow will bring, but today the Senate showed itself to be more concerned about the people of the Republic than its own coffers. This is why she is here. This is how things are supposed to be. And this is why she believes in the Republic. It is not without corruption. It is not without darkness. There is good at its core. And just because something good has darkness in it does not mean you abandon it. Just because there's darkness in something does not mean you do not love it. You show it love, you show it light, and you hope it chooses the light. And you see her idealism in such a beautiful way in this episode. And I think, again, it's like, words are often viewed as weakness. And in this episode, it's the most powerful thing.
Yeah.
That the words of a single senator can sway the thoughts of millions. And then I also think about like that you see her speech projected throughout Coruscant. And I think about like how people saw this senator talking about them for once, and clones saw this person talking about them and talking about them as people and not just as casualties in a war to fight and to die for the Republic.
Absolutely.
And it's she is so important and so powerful, and I wish more people saw that from her, and I'm happy more people are seeing it, but I just would love for more people to see it too.
Yep, absolutely. So that is the end of the arc. Char, real quickly, give your 3 interesting facts. We'll do the rankings and then we'll get out of here. We're gonna skip Star Wars news.
I was hoping you would do that. Yeah, we're already past 2 hours. We usually don't go past an hour and a half, but
this has been such a great
been amazing
conversation and a great rewatch. And Char, 3
all right, ready?
Facts?
3 interesting facts about a certain Clone Wars arc that you didn't know about until now. Part 15, Heroes on Both Sides and Pursuit of Peace Edition, aka the Padme arc. Fact 1, the species of an assassin. The assassin hired by Dooku, named Chota Hioki, is a Selkath, a species that was first introduced in the 2003 video game called Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Fact 2, a reference to an old war. Lot Dodd said Coruscant has not been directly attacked in over 1,000 years, which coincides with the last war between the Jedi and the Sith. Fact 3, beyond the lower levels of Coruscant, the power generators on Coruscant are said to be on level 5,000, which would be 5,000 levels beneath the surface of Coruscant. And there you have it. Those are the 3 interesting facts about the Padme arc, aka Heroes on Both Sides and Pursuit of Peace.
Great job, Char. Now, everybody in the chat, thank you for showing up. Thanks for hanging out with us. I know we went a little bit long, but what is everybody's ranking real quick? Panel. Let's start with Ken.
I'm giving Chef's Kiss or the Grandmaster that the highest ranking for this arc. I love it.
And where can we find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find me at SenatorSmoak, and it's Smoke like Felicity Smoke, so like SMOAK, on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter.
We'll go Vanessa.
I agree with the Chef's Kiss. I am on TikTok and Instagram. I guess I'll change my Twitter. No. Vanessa Stag. I don't want to change my Twitter to my name. But yeah, I'm on those things with my own name. I have a Redbubble. It's Vanessa's Visuals.
Yes, hit it up.
In some of my TikTok descriptions, there's more information on that, but yeah, that's where to find me.
Hannah.
I also have to give it a Chef's Kiss. It's just that deserving, you know? It's just that good.
And where can we find you?
Yeah, you can find me on all platforms at Nerdyhans. And hopefully in the next few weeks or so, YouTube as well. Let's just
there
say.
You go. There you go.
All the places.
And Camila, sweet Camila.
Could you imagine
take a gander at what your ranking's gonna be?
Yeah.
Could you imagine if I'm like, yeah, I just recited that speech and like completely broke down in tears, but I'm gonna give it a Jedi Master.
I was thinking maybe a youngling, but
yeah, youngling, duh. Makes me cry, and I like can't recite it on a podcast without weeping. Grandmaster, duh. It's powerful. I wish more people would watch it because there's a lot to gain from it, and it's hitting very different today. Places you can find me on TikTok, Boricuawookie, and then also at Open Circle Fleet, half Open Circle Fleet with Beth, and then my narrative podcast, Beings of the Galaxy, wherever pods are streamed. Also Instagram at Beings of the Galaxy Pod. That's me.
Char.
You know, I don't think I've ever given a Grandmaster before, but this is the first Grandmaster.
I think so. I think so too. I think that's me as well.
Is this like a full?
This is a whole Grandmaster council.
This is incredible.
This
is
amazing.
This is awesome.
And the audacity of people to call this filler.
Yeah, I just don't get it. I don't get why people call it filler. Makes zero sense.
The reason why I give it a Grandmaster is that this arc shows a lot of the problems that go on in the Republic outside of the war, and Padme just, pardon my language, but she fucking shines in this arc, man.
And rightfully so.
This is the reason why people love Padme, is because she's not just fighting for the Republic, she's just fighting for everyone that's not involved with the war and everyone that is in the lower levels of Coruscant that need help and assistance, and she's fighting for everyone that's in the Republic that needs help. And it's I feel like a lot of people take Padme for granted. Everyone sees Padme as Anakin's wife, but she's way more than that.
Yeah, way
Anakin's Padme's husband.
There it is. Yes.
Yep. There you go.
Wait. What did I say?
No. You were saying she was flipping it around. She was saying that Anakin is Padme's husband.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it's the opposite.
Okay. Yeah. I was thinking, wait, did I say Padme's wife?
No, you're not wrong. But
you're wrong. But
there's just a better way to say it.
Say it.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
But Char, where can we find you on the social
medias? You can find me here at the Podwans podcast every Thursday.
Sorry, I messed it up.
Good people.
Yeah.
You can find me here at the Podwans podcast every Thursday night talking about our Clone Wars rewatch, and you can find me on TikTok at CharCharJ. And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at CharCharJ. And I don't really post on Twitter and Instagram, but you can find me mainly on TikTok.
You guys can follow me at the Podwans Podcast on TikTok, Podwans Pod on Instagram, and at Podwans Podcast on Twitter. I want to thank everybody on our panel. Y'all were amazing.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for coming in.
I really, really appreciate you guys making the time. Thanks to everybody in the chat.
And also Luke, before we do that, for those of you that are in here watching, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like on the video so we can spread out our content even more. And if you want to follow Luke and I on our Clone Wars rewatch, go ahead and follow our Twitter at the Podwans Podcast, follow the Podwans Instagram, and then all the other sources of media that I think Luke has. I don't know. Luke has 6 different medias about.
Well, you know, you gotta spread it all out. But
yeah, so please like and subscribe.
Yeah, I always forget to do that, but good job, Char.
It's the first time we've done that.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden we get better subscribers. But also to the chat, guys, thank you so much. You guys mean the world to us, and thank you for the support. And until next time, for Light and for Life.
And may the Force be with you always. See you later, guys.